amateur sort of like a dirty word in sport. If you're a sprinter, it doesn't matter how bad you are, you can always sprint. If you stop fighting me, I'll kick early. 10 laps to go, I could be last wheel. It doesn't matter. This is not the best racing.
We are going to be watching the 2019 Littleton Criterium. This was part of USA Crits. I believe it was race number 8. Do you remember us trying to attach that GoPro to your bike?
Didn't you end up like duct taping it to my stem or something at the end of it? Didn't you like splint it or something with like electrical tape and like chopsticks?
Doesn't sound very aero. Probably cost you the race, Tom. But hey,
yeah, you know what? In
the footage
retrospect,
looks great.
Looking back, honestly, I think I probably gave that one to Justin.
So we had a front row seat to Justin winning. I'm not going to say that's a spoiler alert, but I think there's a lot of good stuff in there anyway that we'll watch. So without further ado, let's get to the show.
Oh, there goes Justin. Boy, bye.
So the race just started and Justin just immediately attacks.
Yeah, he'll do that. The guys on the front row, if they have a little bit of balls, it's if you get the clip in like immediate, then sometimes you just go for it. He did it here. He did it El Paso. I did it at Tulsa. I don't know. It's sort of a good move. You put everybody under pressure right away. The guys in the front then are forced to react and chase you down. And then the guys in the back are just like immediately pinned. So you kind of burn yourself, but everybody gets burned in the process. And sometimes you come home with a $200 premium. I took advantage of that in a big way last year with just, okay, I'm going to kill myself first 5 laps. I'm going to pick up 10 points there, and then I'm going to screw off till mid-race. And then, a couple laps to mid-race, I'm going to move up. Here's me getting dropped on lap 1. Awesome. Beautiful. And then, it's easier to just be in the front when you have to be because you know when the points are up for grabs, and then you're able to conserve and then obviously go for the big points at the end.
Yeah, it seems like also even just going out hard in the beginning, you kind of stay out of the scrum.
That's a good point, Bodie. Like, it's really hectic the first few laps, and if you make that effort and sort of put yourself in a bit of a hole, everybody's in a hole, it's lined out, and then you can sort of sift through the field one by one instead of having to deal with like a big mass swarm for the first few laps, which is kind of sketchy, can be kind of sketchy. So this just makes it a little bit more honest, and I don't know. I like the move. It's a good move.
So if you had to pick, Tom, would you pick a start like this, or would you pick a chill kind of, big pack start?
Oh, for sure. If it could go from the gun and just never let up, that would be ideal. Because then you'd have the 20 guys who belong to be in the top 20, and then everybody else would just get shelled out the back. And you just always have space. And everybody talks about crits being so dangerous because there's so many turns. And they're not dangerous because most of the time you come out of a turn, you're sprinting. It's mostly single file. And then by the time there's actually a chance for it to bunch, you're heading into the next turn again and sprinting again. You spend so much time single file. You have so much space. Like if you look right here, like, look, there's nobody to my right, nobody to my left. There's a ton of space in front of me. Nobody's really fighting me. And so crits get this bad rap of being like dangerous racing, but I think road racing is so much more dangerous because
we
it's
saw
not
that today.
broken up with the turns. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like how crazy was that?
Yeah.
Because you go 10 across the road and you're going 80 Ks an hour.
Yeah.
If anybody makes even like a little hairpin mistake, then somebody's in the ICU. So, and all the turns in crit racing keep the speed pretty low as well.
You've been talking a lot about this season, what happened, and you alluded to the injury you got at Tulsa Tough. So kind of set us up where you were coming into this race.
Yeah, so this is late July, and I had set myself up over the off season to have a killer spring. Racing was just easy. Like Spartanburg, I sort of walked. The bunch sprint at Athens, it was like I won it with my fingers in my nose. It was just racing was slow motion in the spring, so I was actually in a really good place. And then in Tulsa, I crashed and got that concussion. I rung my bell really, really bad, and I couldn't really do any sharp efforts. If I did any sort of sharp, look at me. Okay, so I'm making a big move here up the left.
Wow.
Just moving past everybody, right? Okay, but there's a couple guys off the front, so I don't know if I'm going to go for it here. I might just let it go because it's only 5 deep, and it might not be worth burning a match for 1 point.
Right, and that's a kind of a constant calculation you've got to make.
Yeah, there's guys off the front, so I'm not going for it. But anyway, yeah, I get banged up pretty bad in Tulsa. Can't do any sprint work. Can't do any work behind the car. I could sort of do endurance rides, but maybe like 2 hours until I got like really sort of bad headaches. Couldn't concentrate on anything. And so from the second week of June on, I was basically just coasting off of whatever fitness I had built up over the winter and the spring. Mm-hmm. And in the races in the immediate aftermath, physically I was good, but mentally I was just so checked out. Like I should not have been racing. It was a bad mistake. Nationals was 2 weeks later. Then I had a little bit of a break, and then Boise. Boise was just, I struggled to see the front all night. Salt Lake City, I had a good race. But then after that, San Rafael was good. And then we get here to Littleton, which is now 6 weeks after the concussion. And like mentally, I'm a little bit sharper, but the legs are just so far gone at this point because I haven't been able to train for it. And so you can see in the footage, throughout the race, I slipped further and further back. I'm taking bad lines through turns. I'm a little hesitant, not taking gaps that I used to take. I don't really have super legs. And all of this combined with the poor lighting coming in and out of these bright lights, it was just like the whole race. I was like, what am I doing? It was really kind of embarrassing. At one point late in the race, when I'm making a charge through the field, I was kind of being a little choppy, if I'm honest. And this one guy, a local kid, I don't know if he was on the Rio team or the Primal Audi Denver team or whatever. I took him in a turn and he said something to his friend like, who does this kid think he is? I was like, I'm a series leader. Who the fuck do you think you are? Like, get out of here. And the kid probably finished 45th and I'm third. And it's like, look at the fucking shirt I'm wearing and mind your business. Okay, maybe it was a dodgy move. In retrospect, probably was, but at the same time, get out of my way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you would probably agree, but I mean, I think there's do you think there should be, or is there a hierarchy in the domestic crit peloton, or do people is everybody sort of doesn't matter who you are, and people are fighting for 37th or whatever?
There is a little bit. Justin gets a lot of respect. Legion gets a lot of respect now. Over the course of the season, I got more and more respect to where people would fight me less. So there is a bit of a hierarchy. I don't know if you know what, there should be. I think USA Crit should move to close this off to local riders. Mm-hmm. If they want to have a league system, have 10 to 15 teams and that's your field. Yeah. The local riders in Paris don't get the race on the Champs-Elysees.
Right.
So it's sort of, I don't know. It kind of sucks because it is great when these races come to town and then the local hero gets to, just hop in and do a high caliber race with us. But at the same time, sometimes they cause problems.
I think you're sort of towards the back here.
Yeah.
What are you thinking right now?
I'm thinking right now, my brain's not working. My legs aren't working. I'm just going into survival mode. You can't even see the front of the guys. The first guys have already gone through the next turn by the time I entered the previous one. Look how far ahead they are there.
But do you know where they are at this point? You know what the gap from the front to where you are is?
No, honestly, I was so on the back foot this night. It was just don't die. And try to save a little bit to get to the finish and maybe make a late push. But I was sincerely in trouble all night.
And I mean, at this point, Tom, are you feeling pinned? Are you feeling completely busted, sort of really hanging on, or just kind of feeling like I need to sit here because there's no way I'm going to be able to make it to the front right now? Or are you just pegged?
It's not so much I'm physically pegged. Physically I wasn't good, but it was more of just a reaction time thing where 6 weeks prior, my brain says do this and my legs respond immediately. But now there's a little bit of a lag time where my brain says do this and my legs sort of don't go right away. And then the opportunity's gone. So then you lose a wheel. And it's just that on repeat all night.
Yeah, that second to last corner, you like took up a ton of spots. So you're someone who I've noticed, and I've watched you race before. You can move up quick. Like I've seen you gone from the back to the front of the race in 2 laps, 1 lap. I don't know. I mean, what are you doing different than everybody else around you that allows you to make up that space?
You got to wait. You have to wait for the right moment. The thing that I used to do, and so many people do, is they say, I'm 50th wheel. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here now. I'm in so much trouble. And so they start just like riding on their limit, and they're picking off 1 wheel, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4 wheels. And then eventually they've been on their limit for 4 or 5 laps. They've made up 10 spots, and then they have to pull the pin, and then they lose 20 spots. Instead, what you do is you say, okay, I'm 50th wheel. I'm in serious shit right now. I got to just pray that this thing doesn't split and bide my time for the right moment to move. And the right moment is right after it goes really, really hard. So it's single file. Maybe somebody's gone in the attack, right? And they get brought back. And when they get brought back, there's this moment of decompression where everybody, sort of takes a breath, and 50th wheel is no longer 50 people deep, right? It bunches into, 5 rows of 10 or something. And then you just put in a little burst, and you take a little gap up the side, and then you've gone from 50th to 5th in just one small effort.
Woo! There you go, Tom. You just went around 20 people there.
I just clenched a little bit watching that.
But okay, so if you know where to position the bike, and so let's say there's a 2-foot gap between the guy who's taking the more outside line and the barrier, right? You can get your shoulders through that gap, but then lean your bike further to the inside so that the bike is out of trouble. If I bang someone's shoulder, we're just going to collide a little bit and it'll be fine. But if he hits my bars, that's where I'm in trouble. So I have to protect my bars by leaning the bike further inside of my body, sort of away from them. That's in no danger land at all. There's nobody to the left of me. There's nothing. It's just barrier, curb, grass, whatever. And so as long as you protect the bike, you're probably fine. Watch the guy who's on my right and sort of mentally measure the distance of his shoulders, like to the curb, like how much space there actually is there.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of space.
So if you look at that patch of road between like his inside knee, and where my bike can go, it's actually like 2 or 3 feet. And as long as I get my bike through that space, it's fine. That one was pretty tight.
Yeah, like right at the apex there's people right on the curve, so you got to have a little bit of room there, right?
We kind of talked a little bit about sort of respect in the peloton and sort of a hierarchy. What's something that's happened that I've noticed over USA Crits and was the big teams are gone. Like the blue train is gone. Rally doesn't come to Crits anymore. That has kind of been replaced this last year by Legion. Legion started to bring really big squads to the races. I'd say the other team that maybe matched their numbers was Butcher Box. But on the men's side, there really wasn't anybody else. Does that have a different style of racing when there isn't some really huge dominant teams and it's more dribs and drabs?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I want to address it in 2 parts.
Okay.
First of all, I do better when it's more chaotic. Spartanburg, where there were no teams. Athens, there was really no teams. Like all of Speed Week. Wilmington, I won. Somerville, I was second. All of those races where there are good riders there, but there's not a cohesive team, I do better because it's a little bit harder. Everybody's having to fight for their position more. And if I'm having to fight against all of Legion's train, then like I'm going to lose, 11 times out of 10 because Justin's getting a free ride the last 10 laps. He's able to conserve and I'm having to battle. So I'm already on the back foot when the sprint opens. But you take away the whole train, now he also has to fight for position, and then it's a more even race. So I guess to answer your question, I prefer it when there aren't big teams there because I don't have a big team yet. However, you mentioned the absence of UHC and Rally because they're pro teams, and it used to be that these pro teams would come down and then kick the shit out of amateurs, and Luke Keogh would win 9 out of 10 races or whatever. Great blue train and blah blah blah. that's all well and good, but I'm really excited for an era of non-professional, high-caliber racing where amateur squads build up really badass teams and get really organized and treat it like professional racing. And that's what Legion has done. They're an amateur team, but they treat it like a pro team. And amateur is sort of like a dirty word in sport because you're not pro, but I think it's a really cool thing. If you think back to the Olympics until the 80s,
Right.
every Olympic athlete was an amateur. So
Right.
it can be high level competition and not be professional. And I think that's what Legion is bringing to it. That's what I'm trying to do with growing automatic. That's me. Did you hear that? I was just like, excuse me on your left. Sorry.
Wait. We're gonna do a little rewind.
Are you Canadian?
Catch that. All right.
Excuse me on your left. Sorry.
So, Tommy. Whoa! Was that riders being put back in and like?
Yeah.
The other guy was like perpendicular to the field. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's
I'll turn
it.
that down
That was
a bit.
incredibly
So-
polite.
So in that instance, okay, so I was talking about earlier, if they're taking a wide line, you can sneak in through, but if they're taking an inside line, you can't because you'll run into the back of them. That was an instance where they were setting a wide line, and then he ended up coming in harder on the inside than I was expecting, so my gap was disappearing. So I had to be like, yo, I'm here. Please don't kill me.
All right. So we
Are
heard a
those
bell.
cowbells or the bell? I
I
can't
don't
tell.
know. Hard
I
to
think
tell.
that was the bell.
So anyway, assuming this is a preem lap, and I'm like, shit, I'm gonna get me some points. It's going pretty full gas here, right? Watch how it's single file, and then wait for the bunch, and then I just basically I do a little sprint.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's. Wow.
Jeez. Yeah, so I mean you were like 35th at the start of that, and you're about to make it to the front of the race here.
Yeah, there's a few guys off the front. Here's this hincappy guy sort of chopped me. He didn't know I was there. Not his fault.
Yeah, so you just like cut
So now I'm
across
just
inside
going.
him.
It's interesting. I don't remember.
And then
this.
there's like what, 4 riders ahead who are off the front,
Yeah.
and you're bridging across.
Or you're
So what are you thinking here? Are you thinking sit on, and then blast around?
Nah, here it's just like, oh, it's over. They spread across the road. They're looking at each other. There's no chance it stays away, right? So why even try? Let's see.
That's the bell.
okay. So now
That's the
now we
bell.
got the bell.
Okay.
So you
Okay,
were
so yeah, I was aware that mid-race was coming up, and so I took an opportunity to get to the front.
Gotcha. Okay. So now you're
so
sitting
that
here.
that was your setup for the preem lap.
Yeah.
Wide open road in front of you. First time we've seen it all race. And there goes
I know.
Butcher Box.
So now look at the shadows. Now it's 10 across, right? That's too far to go. All right. I'm in a decent position here, but honestly slid too far back.
And was that just owing again to what you talked about earlier, your reaction
Yeah.
time? That months
Exactly.
earlier in the season you would have been able to see that move coming over your left shoulder and go with it.
Yeah. Months later, I would have been third wheel and just waiting. Let's see if I make a move here. I honestly have no idea. This is exciting. It's like it's happening live to me.
It feels like you're about to make a move. Something tells me.
It does, but I didn't. I would have moved up the right there, and I didn't. So something tells me my legs just aren't there right now. I'm struggling.
There's no Legion
Oh,
guy.
I might be teeing it up for a counter after the preem. I'm talking to somebody behind me. Let's see. If I take a run at him.
Looks like it.
But it didn't really let up, so I'm not going to get a gap, really. Yeah. Yeah, I think I was trying to tee it up to counter after the preem, but the pace never really went out of it. A lot of the times after a preem lap, it'll sort of like deflate and you can go in the attack. It's what I did at San Rafael. But yeah, the pace just never came out of it. So
quick question,
never got the
Tom. You
opportunity.
were struggling toward the back of the race for a while, feeling like you were hanging on. Now you've made a big move. You've recovered. You've gotten to the front, or closer to the front. What are you feeling now? Are you still feeling kind of beat, or are you feeling like, okay, it's starting to work out a little bit for me?
Right now, I'm probably feeling like, okay, I'm far enough forward where I'm ahead of the swarm. Everything's okay. But the whole night was just trying to tread water with a cinder block around my neck. Look, they're going in the attack, and I'm telling somebody else to go with it because I can't follow it. Yeah, look, I just let that go.
Wow. That's really interesting to see that and to hear you say that and to watch it play out. It's interesting to know what the finish is, and you don't go with that move. So, and you said this before, you just kind of, sometimes you gotta, I guess, accept and then hope for the best.
Yeah, so in a situation like this, when you're bad, if you can sprint, you just have to hope it comes to a bunch sprint. Because if you're a sprinter, it doesn't matter how bad you are, you can always sprint. And so if you've been suffering all night, you can find something extra that last lap. So you just gotta sort of sit back and go, well, I hope a break doesn't go. And I think Legion was there with a full squad, so I was pretty confident that it would come to a bunch sprint. But Hincapie was there, and that was a wild card. So you never really know.
So it looks like there were enough guys that went with that it didn't get away at all, and you're still sitting on the front of the race for the most part, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, so a match worth not burning.
So I made a deal with Ty Magner in Salt Lake City where Legion had their train and I was fighting Ty for Justin's wheel. And I was just like, Ty, please stop. And he's like, no. And I was like, if you stop fighting me, then like I'll kick early and I'll essentially be your lead out over the top of Legion's train. And he's like, all right, fine. So that kept the swarm behind me. So then I got a free ride. But then he starts yelling at me to go with like 800 meters left. And I'm like, nah. He's like, we had a deal. And I'm like, so I kick off and like peaked at like 1780 or 1750 or something and was just full gas to the finish. And I looked at the file later expecting to see a huge 1 minute power. And it was like 600 watts or something. Like it wasn't that big. So it's just the nature of having to come off the gas and get back on the sprint, then off the gas, then back on the sprint. And it's like, it really leads to not super impressive numbers.
I want to know more about the deal making. You and Ty Magner, like, what's like? Does that happen a lot in these situations? I mean, are you guys working together sometimes against bigger teams?
It can happen. It's not often, but yeah.
There's you bleeding a bunch of places, Tom. By the way.
So there you go. Right?
There it is. There's the moment.
14 laps to go, and I'm 40th place.
All right, well, Tom, in your Instagram post, you talked about, the final of a race, and you talked about how it can start at different points in time. It can be the entire race if the race is crazy hot from the get-go. It can be, way toward the end. Clue us in when you start thinking about, when your final is starting and how you're going to play it out. Because at some point, you're going to find your way back toward the front of this race, and as it starts to happen, I'd love to hear you talk about what's going through your head as it develops.
Yeah, I use 8 to go with the expectation that I won't actually be where I want to be until probably 5 to go. 5 to go is when it could really, really kick off with a team of 6 riders. But just like with the gel, you have to start looking before you need it. So that's 10 laps to go right there. So 10 laps to go, I could be last wheel. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to happen. We're at the point now where the sprint trains are queuing up. They haven't taken control yet, but they're not going to let anything go. No breakaway is going to go. And so I could literally just be sipping coffee in the back at 10 to go. This is like the safest point of the race.
But if it's 10 to go and there's a group that's got 20, 30 seconds off the front, is it panic stations?
Well, then what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Right.
I'm one rider. I have to rely on the sprint train still. So, like, I'm not going to jump across that gap. I have to just wait for Legion to tee it up. And in that situation, I would probably be there sooner because they're going to have to ride harder sooner. But yeah, for me, that doesn't really change anything. So now we're at 9 to go, right? 9 laps to go. Let's see if we can see the front of the race here.
Whew.
Yeah.
Boy, that fencing kind of poked out there, didn't it?
Yeah.
Came up on you quick.
Guys are dropping through. You can see people are coming off.
So the interesting thing I was saying about sprinters is that it doesn't matter how bad you are. In the final, you always have it. There are so many people that the exact opposite is true. They can suffer all race and be there until 5 to go. And then at 5 to go, it's like they pull the pin and then they're gone. And it's like, well, you just raced your guts out for 75 minutes. Why are you now gone? Like that disconnect has never made sense to me. You should be charging through the field at that point. Because clearly they're strong enough. Okay, so they're already around the next turn there. Yeah. This is not the best racing. Kids, don't try this at home.
I'm looking forward to this crash course to the front.
It'll just happen like that. It's not going to be impressive or anything. It's just I'll just be there suddenly. I'm assuming right now either Legion or Hincapie has masked their guys at the front, and they're not yet doing damage, but they're present.
I mean, Hincapie would had 3 people, I think. Not a lot.
They had more than that.
Did they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were in the race.
Maybe it was 4. But yeah, because they had 2 guys in front of me the last lap, and then Miguel came over the top behind me and into the 2 turns to go. Spoiler alert.
There's a Legion guy just got dropped.
Okay, so yeah, he would probably job done. He was probably the guy to get everybody to the front, sort of ride steady so that everybody could be present. Rode as long as he could. Now he's done. Okay, so now we're coming up on 6 to go.
It looks like you've made up about 20 spots over the last 3 laps.
Yeah. Still, look at that. Look at the flow of people.
Still a lot
ahead
of traffic
me.
up there.
Pretty big move right here.
Yeah, maybe took 5 spaces there. 6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
9.
you're passing.
But like here, I'm just in the wind, right? Like not necessarily a good move, just a necessary move.
There's the front of the race. You can see the front now.
Okay, so I'm back. I'm back, baby.
But have you've been burning matches doing that, getting to that position?
Yeah. Every time I do that, it's a mini sprint. You know, that's minimum 1,000 watts. Might punch through here. Let's see.
Yeah, it looks like
There's
when
a
it
gap
fans
there.
out, you kind of can just take the outside and come up a little bit.
Yeah. Also, outside line is the best line. Inside line, great for making up spaces, but you lose so much speed.
Yeah, you're passing guys on that left-hand side.
Hincapie guy just led you up that. I don't know which rider that is.
Yeah.
So there's
Just
Corey.
sort of worked out. So now I'm there, right?
Yeah.
Everything good to go. 5 laps to go. So it's like nothing ever happened before this point. It's just a normal race now.
Now it sort of just resets.
Yep. Now we have a few guys off the front, I think. And I'm pretty sure soon Corey's going to go, maybe in the next 3 laps.
And there's one Hincapie guy right in front of you there.
Yeah.
So real quick, just to reset here, Tom, at this point, you're thinking about winning this race. You're no longer thinking, I'm not feeling it tonight or I don't have it or whatever. You're at the front. Yeah. You know you got a chance to win.
Pain switches off. You feel nothing at this point. So this is just like, okay, the guys who are supposed to be here are here. Now it's fairly no stress because nobody's letting anybody in.
Yeah, this is pretty strung out. This looks like a lead out train right there.
Yeah. Okay. So looks like Hincapie's already under control. Like they've already got the reins, and I don't think Corey's gone yet, has he?
I still see him up there. 3 laps to go.
He's like
3 laps to
there.
go. Okay.
He's right there.
So we got 4 Hincapie, we got Corey, we got Justin, we got Jake McGee, and then you.
Why would they take it up with 4 or 5 laps to go if they have 4 riders? So right now, I'm prime position. When Corey attacks, it sort of fucks everything up for me, which, they don't care about that. But
So you did the work. You put yourself in a good position. You're ready to go.
yeah. This, for me right here, is ideal. I know all of those Hincapie guys are going to be gone. So maybe I'm 8th wheel, but 3 of them are going to be gone. So essentially, I'm 5th wheel. Corey's also going to be gone, so that puts me 4th. Jake's in front of me, who's not going to be a factor in the sprint. So essentially, I'm top 3, if you think of it that way.
Yeah, that's really interesting to look at it.
Yeah, because you can be 10th wheel, but you got to look who's in front of you and who won't be there. None of those Hincapie guys will be there. One of them will be there. Justin will be there.
And you're marking Justin here, too, which is also where you want to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what you got to do. He's the guy.
He's the guy in the Stars and Stripes jersey. Oh,
Yeah.
Who's this?
Okay, so I'm feeling a swarm. There's some guy who has no business being there. And so I just pop out, try to stay ahead of it, but it looks like I didn't stay ahead of it. Wow. Yeah, so those are wheels I wouldn't have lost earlier in the season, and now I'm having to go around them again.
Oh, so this may be how you wound up on the wheel of the Hincapie guys, because you couldn't find your way back in until...
Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, so they cut a guy loose, it looks like.
Yeah.
Is that what's happening? Yeah, they cut someone loose here. So now I have 3 Hincapie guys in front of me with 1 gone. One of these guys has been riding the front for a long time. So he's essentially just a placeholder.
There goes Corey.
There goes Corey. So there's 3 guys in front of me, but essentially there's 2 because one of them is probably
Ooh, looks
cooked.
like you got to close a big gap here.
Yeah, I forgot about this. So that guy who was cooked swings off, leaves a gap, and now I have to close it down with 1 to go.
That's a match.
This
right
is where
there.
I lost the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Justin's getting a free ride because he's on your wheel now.
Yep. So that's how I end up in that position. So now Hincapie's forced to go for it to get Corey back, and I slot into their train, and I'm assuming Justin is right on my wheel, and if it's not Justin, it's Micheal.
All right, so you're about to get Corey here. He's right
There
there.
he is.
There's
And
Corey.
now he's
they
giving
get
up.
him back.
Yeah.
So now the guy, I think I'm on Andy Dahlheim's wheel. This guy pulls off. He had to do the effort, and now I'm like, fuck. Andy takes over, and we have a K to go. This is way too far.
Yeah.
I'm 2nd wheel. I'm getting dumped.
You want to be like 5th wheel at this point or something, huh?
3rd would be good. 4th would be good. 5th might be a little too far, but still probably okay. But yeah, right now I'm just like, please keep going. And every single pedal stroke is just like an hour in my mind of like, he can't do this forever. I'm expecting him to pull off here, but he keeps going. And I'm like, oh, keep going. So you're going to see, he looks back, he sees that I'm not his teammate Micheal right here.
And
Boom.
then
He's
they
like,
come.
all right, I'm done. Now I'm dumped in the wind. Here comes Micheal. Listen to Justin's tire.
Whoa.
Then there's a big crash behind us. So now I have to do my sprint just to get in this wheel, and I'm toast. So we open up the sprint here. I should have followed Miguel's draft, but I followed Justin's in an attempt to win the race. And now I'm back in the saddle. Like, I couldn't even sprint the whole way.
Wow. That last lap.
So coming out of that last turn, I'm going for the win. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to follow Justin's wheel. But honestly, I had nothing left in the tank. So when I go to follow him, it was just a futile effort. I was immediately in the win. I should have followed Miguel's wheel because it ended up being maybe like that to 2nd place. Like, it was very close. You got a picture of it, Bodie.
Yeah. I'll share that.
If I had followed Miguel's wheel, I could have just sat pretty down that finish chute and popped around and ended up 2nd. But, retrospect.
So, I mean, what are those feelings after you cross the finish line? What's going through your head right there? I mean, you sort of pulled something out of nothing.
I did, but this is race 8 of 9. And it's the second weekend in a row I was in a position to win the race, and I didn't. San Rafael, I got burned by those 2 Legion guys who sat on the brake and didn't do anything all night because they had Justin behind, and then they took 1-2 in the sprint, and then I was third. That was frustrating enough. And then again, this following weekend, to be in a position after having an awful night and then proving to myself that I'm Thomas fucking Gibbons and I'm going to be there when it counts, and then not be able to capitalize on it, then I felt like the air had been let out because I hadn't won a series race. And now it's like, oh God, I'm probably not going to win a series race. I'm going to win the overall by 500 points, but I'm not actually going to win a race. And that sort of sucked.
Tom, it's been great to chat with you. I always enjoy hearing your thoughts and your perspective on bike racing.
Thanks so much for having me. I love it. I love talking to you guys. You guys are fun.